Tomorrow's federal budget's likely to be a tough sell for a government with little political capital in the bank. It'll show two larger-than-expected deficits before a return to surplus in 2012, and that's despite Australia enjoying its best terms of trade in a century. Shortly, we'll hear what some Australians are hoping for from the budget. But first, as Chris Ullman reports, explaining the budget's not the government's only headache.
The leaves are turning in Canberra. The lights are burning at Treasury. The Treasurer's been locked in his department and the presses are rolling. The other budget season cliche is the leak, but this year the settled order of things has been shaken.
Right, Wayne. Thank you, Wayne. Right, over you go.
The anonymous whisper's been replaced by the ministerial bellow.
To invest in rewarding great teachers around the country, to support schools and students with disabilities. We will change our family payment system.
Each goodie comes wrapped in the same paper.
And the budget will be a tough budget. It will be about the nation living within its means.
It doesn't sound so tough right now.
This government, overall, has now spent around $4 billion extra in 8 days.
But there's been a touch of tough love. Defence is returning some cash.
We're talking about $300 million or more over a three to 4 year period.
There have been so many official and unofficial announcements, even the Treasurer's finding it hard to keep up.
Cutting 1,000 civilian jobs in defence, even though the government promised defence would be quarantined.
Laurie, you'll just have to wait and see on the night.
Unfortunately, the toughest thing about the last fortnight's been the competition for attention, which has made a difficult budget story even harder to tell, because despite the biggest mining boom since the gold rush, the deficit's growing.
The deficit in this financial year will be larger, and it will be larger because of the natural disasters, because of the international uncertainty, and the greater expected hangover effects on revenue flowing from the global financial crisis. And I've made that very clear.
Year just finishing, 51 billion. Year just about to start, 22 billion. Now that's bad news for both years. About 10 billion worse than expected, 9 billion worse than expected next year compared to the current official expectations.
The Treasurer doesn't want people to focus on the short term because there's good news just over the horizon.
We will impose our strict fiscal discipline in terms of spending, and that is how we get back to surplus in 2012-13.
The budget will focus on improving workforce skills and participation, and the ABC's been told it will include measures to force the long-term unemployed to work harder for the dole. The government will push up work requirements from 6 months a year to 11, and more skilled migrants will be sent to work in regional Australia. The coalition's already penned its response.
Without the carbon tax in it, this budget will not be worth the paper that it's printed on.
But some in Labor's ranks are concerned by other matters. Members of Labor's left are worried by a decision to ship some asylum seekers to Malaysia and Papua New Guinea.
There is a commitment between me and the Malaysian Prime Minister to finalise an agreement for 800 people who seek to come to Australia by boat to go to Malaysia. We'll obviously announce full details of all of this arrangement when the agreement's finalised. But we are intending to take a fairly tough approach.
We're going to be dumping them in some of the worst conditions that asylum seekers and refugees face in our region.
This is a Prime Minister who believes nothing and everything